All right, everybody, let's go to the section chemical formulas, which is 8.5D and 6.5C. Before we get started on collaborating for answers and making sure we all know how to do this, we're going to look at a little mini lesson. So, a chemical formula is simply elements being put together to make something new. So in this case, sodium, sulfur, and oxygen is put together to make sodium sulfate. So when we look at this as scientists, we know that it's kind of just like a recipe that your mom makes in the kitchen. So if your mom wants to make a cake, she puts 2 of these, she puts 2 eggs, she puts a little milk, and she mixes all those things together to make something new. Well, a formula is mixing elements to make new things, such as salt, such as baking soda, and many of the common ingredients that you use today. So let's look at this one. Na. If we look, it has a subscript of 2. That lets us as scientists know that I need to make sodium sulfate 2 atoms of sodium. Notice that my sulfur has no subscripts next to it. Does that mean that there's nothing there? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that there's 1 because sulfur is indeed present in this chemical formula. However, I only need 1, so there's no need to put a 1 if the S represents 1 of that atom. The next we have oxygen. Oxygen has how many? 4, because the subscript below oxygen or next to oxygen tells us that there are 4 atoms. If we look at this as molecules, we'll see 2 atoms of sodium, 1 of sulfur, and 4 of oxygen. So this would be a molecule of sodium sulfate. Now let's get to business. Go ahead and pause and work these out with your group. All right, you guys, you ready to check? A coefficient tells you how many molecules there are. A subscript tells you how many atoms there are, and that's the number behind the element. Fill in the missing information to complete your chart. So let's look at H2O. H2O is not a chemical symbol, but it is a chemical formula. It is not an element because element would just be H by itself. So it is called a compound. Total number of elements. When I look, how many capital letters do I see? I see a total of 2. Total atoms. There is 3 atoms total. I see 2 hydrogen atoms, and then if nothing's there, of course, that counts as 1, which is a total of 3. How many molecules? There is no coefficient in front, so there is only 1 molecule of H2O. Let's look at Cu4. I know that this is a chemical symbol because it is 1 element that's just 4 atoms of that 1 element. It's not a combination of elements. It's just 4 little copper not molecules, but 4 copper atoms combined together. Okay. It is an element because there's just 1 element present. There's a total of 1 element present. There's a total of 4 atoms because of the 4 indicated. And there is 1 molecule because there is no subscript in front. Let's look at the next one. See, we have calcium, carbon, and oxygen. It is a chemical formula. It is also a compound because the elements are put together like the recipe to form something new. It has a total of 3 elements. It has 3 elements. It has 5 total atoms, because if I count 3, 4, 5, and there's 1 molecule. ZR is a chemical symbol because it is representing one atom of ZR. Then we have, it is an element, not a compound. Total elements would be 1. Total atoms would be 1. And total molecules will also be 1. The next one's kind of tricky because it has a parenthesis in the middle, which lets me know that I'm going to multiply. So let's look at the answers for that. We know that this is a chemical formula because there's multiple elements present, which are indicated by those capital letters. We know that it is a compound because we're putting those elements together. It is not just one element represented. How many elements total? We have a total of 3 elements. Total atoms. Now, here's the tricky part because you're going to have to multiply. You're going to have to multiply the 2 by everything inside of the parentheses, which lets me know that I'm going to have 13 total atoms. And I will pause the video to let you know how I got to 13. Total number of molecules. There's no coefficient in front, so that lets me know there's only 1. Last but not least, we have a chemical formula of 2CNO. It is a compound because it's 2 elements put together. There's a total of 2 elements. There are 4 atoms, and there's a total of 2 molecules because there is a coefficient in the front of this chemical formula. All right, how many atoms of each are in each formula? Go ahead and pause the video so that you can get that information together with your group or work with your teacher. All right, so we're looking to separate these out. So hydrogen, which is represented by the H, has a subscript of 2, which lets me know there's only 2 atoms of hydrogen. And oxygen, there are only 2 atoms of oxygen. Let's look at the next one. Hydrogen, how many does it have? 2. Sulfur has nothing behind it, which lets us know that that's going to be represented by the number 1. And oxygen is represented by the subscript 4. Now here is that tricky one. So we may want to pause the video and work through this one together. So carbon has 1. Oxygen has also 1. Nitrogen is the tricky one because you have to multiply 2 by the 1, which still makes it 2. And hydrogen will be 2 times 2, which makes that 4. Now let's answer this question on your own. How many atoms of oxygen are present in 2 molecules of glucose? So glucose right here does not have 2. It only has 1. So you have to put the number 2 in the front. So all you're going to do is multiply 2 times everything in the chemical formula. And that should give you an answer of 12.